Hey, howdy, hey, folks. It's Mrs. Johnson. I'm talking specifically today about my garden more, talking about my map specifically. Um, because I mapped things out in my garden. Um, and I want to show you how I did that. So I used Excel because it was easier for me. We talked about garden mapping in the gardening basics already. Um, But let me explain my map. So, and I why I like having it in Excel on the same document that I have the rest of my crop information on, right? So, this is all my crop information on this piece or on this sheet, I think they're called. But this is my map, right? And these down here are different pages, so as to say. So I'm like flipping pages in a book. And you add these by, oh, they're called sheets, right? So you just click and you can right click on those and you can rename them, you can move them, you can copy them. And all it does is add a new page, so you don't have to keep everything like on different places in the same sheet. You can kind of keep it organized in like its own separate page. But you can uh, intersperse formulas between pages. So, um, what did I do? So, these black ones, black cells, those are places where I absolutely cannot plant. So, like this here, that's my house. This here, that's a fence. I can't plant there. Um, Now you'll see that I labeled the cardinal directions north, south, east, west. And then I labeled some things like, hey, here's a bank. There's actually like quite a steep slope going across this way, which is why that's blocked off there. There's a plum tree right here. That's important for me to know because I'm in a place where uh, it is south facing. Uh, it is a south facing slope, which is important for the sunshine because also this is my house. So if I planted on the north side of my house over here, I wouldn't get sun or as much sun. So planting over here. But this plum tree is important because it's kind of big, not terribly big. It's like 20 feet maybe. Um, and it's not very densely shrubbed. But like this, like right underneath it, like this little spot, I would consider, probably planting lettuce or something there. And then I marked this oak tree over here because there's an oak tree over here. So all this stuff over here probably going to be kind of shady. Um, all this gray stuff is stuff I don't want to plant in. I can if I really need to, but I don't want to because it's going to be a pain in the butt to get irrigation over here first off, and two, I just don't want to. So, um, at some point I will add water spigots in here because there's a water spigot on this side of the house, on the north side of the house, and a water spigot on the south side of the house. And the pump house for this part of the property is actually over here towards the west. And so I don't really know where I want to pull water from yet, but I'll figure it out and you'll be here for the ride. But back to it now that I've explained the map. How exactly did I do this? So I went out and I measured my yard and was like, where do I want to plant? Okay, let's measure stuff. And how does that translate here? So this, I measured along this fence line up to, from my house to this tree along the fence line and found, I think it's like 20 feet, maybe. Something along those lines. I'd have to count specifically, and my numbers are really small, so you can see what all I did because I made a square foot a single cell. So, and that's how I like marked it on the map, is this here. I can click on any one of these and I know that it indicates a single foot within my garden. And I could break it up more if I really wanted to, but I don't really want to, because if I want to break it up more, I'm just going to print this map and draw it out. But this makes it convenient because then I can, let's say I come back here and I find, right, if I wanted to plant basil is going to require 3 feet of space. So just over 3 feet. I can allot 4 feet to it, knowing that there's some space left. I can go on my map and highlight 4 feet and go and label it basil. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And I can put a box around it, and I put a box around it by highlighting the cells, going up to this little square here in the drop down, and picking what kind of border I want. And I picked the thick outside border. I could also do the thin outside border. I could change the color on it. Right? Draw border, line color. Right? I could make my line colors blue. And I could change that by clicking on them. But I could also, oh, stop. Right? Actually, we'll do that one more time. We'll put a square around it. Let's say I want to plant basil there, but there's 4 feet dedicated to basil, but basil is like hanging off and doing weird things in this cell up here. It's going over to this extra foot over here, and I don't want that. So I can go in, highlight all the cells, and I can merge and center, right? And what that does is it tells Excel that all 4 of those cells are going to basically take whatever is written in there and use all 4 cells has like 1 writing space. It's going to still count it as 4, but it's all 1 writing space. And then I can click this button, the orientation button, and I can vertical the text. I could angle it. I could rotate the text sideways if I wanted to. I could do all sorts of things based on how I wanted to put it in here. But this actually is how outside of that, this being a really nifty way to do that, by just measuring my garden and going, okay, this is that many feet this way. This is, I think this was like 35 feet. This was 8 feet here on this little pop out of my house. And then this was 12 feet. And then this over here I know is like 11 feet or something. And I just measured it, I wrote it down, and I then just put it in Excel. Nice thing about that though is I could totally do the square footage on my whole garden, but I was too lazy to do that. So I used an Excel function called count blanks. And if I highlight this section, and it will count all the blank cells in the space that you highlight. And of course, this cell isn't blank anymore. There's the count function in Excel, there's a few of them, and they just count the cells that meet the requirements for that specific count function. And so, right, all I did was highlight this square and go, okay, count those. And then I highlighted the next square and said, count those. And I highlighted the next square. I said, count those and count those until I got to all of my garden. Now, I like this also because then I can go in, adjust my map, adjust these, and be okay. And I have full reign of isolating this map specifically and changing where it's at. I wanted this. So then I used the sum function and added all these numbers up. That's how I got the 12,000 feet here. Now, this says 12,006. This says 12,005 because we wrote that Basel in. If I remove that Basel, 12,006. Yeah. And so at some point in the next couple months, I'm going to go through and actually label things and put things where I want to grow them. Probably in here because I kind of know that I want to do a whole block of corn, like somewhere in here. I want to do a bunch of like my lettuce and like quick succession plants here. I want to do like tomatoes in the full sun, stuff like that. So I'm kind of already thinking about where I want to put things. I just haven't written it down and planned it yet. Um, and so without further ado, I hope that was helpful and I hope we've learned something today. And I hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time.